Hey guys, how you doing? Good morning, good evening to all those around the world. Welcome back to our Pokemon Unite video featuring Absol in the Master Rank going through the jungle. You know, I sat down and I was like, yeah, we should do something a little bit different, you know, than Gengar right now. Hopefully you guys have watched it. If you haven't, you know, check it out. My very first Gengar montage. It was fantastic, man. I literally sat down like 6 hours or so playing non-stop Gengar. I finally made a video on it. We had a good time doing it. Keep a lookout for new montages and new updates coming up here on Season 2. Very excited for it. I have been getting some questions right now when it comes to what other junglers that I play or what other junglers that I feel are pretty good right now, and Absol definitely is one of them. But he has a completely different playstyle than a lot of you maybe used to. Absol is super aggressive. You actually have to get into that team fight. You got to get into that 5v5. You got to gank. You got to do all these things to stay relevant in the game. And for a lot of people, aggressive style Pokemon, you know, it's not your cup of tea, right? You don't know how to be successful or get kills and get out of the situations on how much damage you do. There's a lot of things you got to factor in. And Absol is one of those Pokemon that has very, very high burst damage. Out of the gate, I think Absol has the highest kill percent chance at level 1. I think when you're first ganking for your first B-spawn, Absol's the highest percent chance to get a kill. Now, we do have an ability that no one else has, and I think it's one of the best in the game. It's called Super Luck. It's your passive ability that gives you a flat 15% increased crit rate. Level 1, no items. And then your basic attack for your third charge auto, what that does is it lowers the enemy Pokemon's defense stats by 15% for 2 seconds, I believe. And then, if they're alone, you do increased damage to them. So in other words, if not another Pokemon is next to them, you do increased damage to that Pokemon. This is why Absol out of the gate, level 4, level 5, that first gank for bees is 1-2-shotting most Pokemon. Just because his passives, they couple together really, really nicely. And then you have two abilities. You got Night Slash or Pursuit. Personally, I enjoy Pursuit. The first form Pursuit comes in an arc, right? Cool. It gives you a little bit of movement. We call it gap closer, disengage, what have you. The second form Pursuit, if you land the first one, the second one does increase crit. And it's actually really, really nuts. It does a lot of damage. It's kind of similar to Pursuit, except for it's not positional. What I mean is, to get a benefit from Pursuit, you have to be behind a target. Doesn't sound that difficult, right? It's not. It's really not that hard. But the difference is, when you come out of a bush to gank, or you're going to a Dreadnought, you're rotating like how we're doing here. If the enemy team doesn't know you're coming and you pursuit on a target, you normally come from behind, right? So you have that guaranteed surprise crit, generally. And you can do a lot of damage. You can go ahead and delete that Pokemon. But let's say if you're inside of a cluster, let's say 5v5 situation, team fight, you're at Rotom, you're at Dreadnought, or you're fighting in a choke point at Zapdos, it's a lot harder to get around a target to position yourself to be behind them to do a lot of damage with Pursuit. Night Slash doesn't have that issue. Night Slash always is going to guarantee damage. It gives you mobility, disengage, gap closer, whatever you want to call it. Now, whereas Pursuit, let's say you jump on a target with Pursuit and they eject button right away from you. What happens? You just auto-attacked it, just nothing, because they're gone and now it's on cooldown. I mean, you get the force eject button, sure, but there's just dashes, there's jumps, there's eject buttons. All those abilities essentially counter Pursuit. Which sucks, you know, but at the same time, that's the nature of the game, you know, there's always a counter to something. Now your second ability is called Psycho Cut. What Psycho Cut does is a skill shot line, which the first target that it hits, it puts slashes over top of the head. And these claw marks represent increased auto attack damage. Right? That's phenomenal. It really is. It doesn't sound like it, but it's really, really good. Because, like I said, your passive ability, Super Luck, gives you a flat 15%, right? And then your boosted auto attack lowers the defenses by 15% and does additional damage if it hits a single target. There's increased damage to that as well. So, Psycho Cut, let's say you crit, that's pretty much the leading enemy Pokemon. Majority of the time, even if they're a tank, it does so much damage regardless of if they're a tank or not. Absol has that potential to one-shot most squishy Pokemon, has the potential to one-shot most Pokemon in the game. Now, the side note is Absol is super, super squishy. He doesn't have a lot of survivability. So at the end of the day, you can replace items to make him a little bit tankier, and the only item in which that I use right now is Buddy Barrier or Focus Sash. Buddy Barrier gives you that barrier and that HP when you Unite move, whereas Focus Sash just heals you a little bit when you get low HP. So for some reason, out of the bush, level 5, level 4, whatever, you don't get that initial kill, and you get ready to die, or the enemy jungler ganks you as you gank that lane. Focus Sash will keep you up. You know what I mean? You have that in your back pocket. Now in the early game, Buddy Barrier won't give you much besides flat health, but it allows you to stay alive longer in team fights in the later game. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Now I want you to keep in mind, look at the minimap. This is something that's going to help you guys succeed and help you guys get further into the game. It sounds very simplistic, it really is, but at the same time, it happens to you, me, your brother, your grandma, happens to everybody, right? Let's say I'm sitting here, I'm getting value with this Rotom, I'm getting value at Dreadnought or Rotom or Zapdos or wherever, and my enemy team, my team needs to rotate, get to this objective with me, so we can do it, right? And then you got your Pikachu or whoever off in the corner fighting a Corphish or the Dino. And then what happens? You lose that objective because your teammates aren't paying attention to the minimap, aren't paying attention to where everyone else is, and doesn't make it to that objective in time. It's something like that that's very simplistic, but at the same time, let's say you're coming out of the bush to gank a lane, right? You're coming in to gank. And where your team at? They're literally sitting on the spawn pad, or the healing pad. They're not paying attention to you or nothing, they're just waiting. And you jump in, and no one helps you out, then you die. So you could argue that's your fault. You could say that. But at the same time, imagine if you just look at the minimap, it'll change your game. 100%. We're sitting here. Only thing we've been doing all game is farming. Farming, getting kills, rotating for these objectives. We're level 14. Almost level 15, the highest level in the game right now. So everybody on the enemy team, no one can 1v1 me, no one can 1v2 me. And we take that dominance, we just assert it. Because right now Zapdos is spawning. We're able to rotate and take this Dreadnought within 4 seconds before Zapdos pops up. Level 15 right now. This Zapdos, pretty much, we don't need it at all. Why? Because again, look at the minimap. We have more goals up than the enemy Pokemon do. In our enemy team, excuse me. So we don't need this Zapdos. But this is one of those situations where the enemy team, does get it. They can win. It's the nature of Zapdos. And like I said, Night Slash, in case you didn't know, can get you outside of Gardevoir's Unite move. So if you jump into a team fight, right, inside of a choke point or whatever, pursued in there, Gardevoir throws her Unite move, then guess what? You're dead. 9 out of 10, you're dead. But Night Slash helps you stay alive. So is your Unite move if you pop your Unite move, sure, no problem. But that means you wasted your Unite move to counter someone else's Unite move. It's one of those situations. But in any case, hopefully those of you that are trying to learn Absol, or those of you that, looking for a new guide or new Pokemon to play in the jungle, can learn a thing or two. If not, enjoy the gameplay. Check out the Gengar montage. This has been Pawse Plays. We're going to dive in and take a look at Absol's abilities and what I think is the best. Catch you guys in a minute. Smash that like button, join that Discord. See you guys later. Hey guys, how you doing? Good morning, good evening to all those around the world. Welcome back to another Pokemon Unite video. This will be featuring Absol and Masters Rank guide that we got going on here. Let's take a peek. Let's dive right in. Absol, for example, not a lot of people know this, but has the highest crit rate in the game. And that's because we have a passive ability called Super Luck, right? It increases the base stat by quite a bit right out the gate, level 1, without any items. The only Pokemon that has a flat % crit rate at level 1 is Absol. Now, there's a lot of different builds you can run on Absol. She does Insane Burst, he does Insane Burst. At level 1, when we first get that first gank off with the bees, Absol can 2-shot, 1-shot most Pokemon, right? We see the damage, we know what happens. And generally speaking, you can actually take either of these abilities and do just fine. Night Slash is a little bit more complicated because it is in a arc. You activate the first stage of the ability. If you activate the second stage of the ability, it goes in a straight line and you go through targets and over obstacles, generally speaking. But it also has a very, very high crit rate. So, let's take a peek at Night Slash. So again, Night Slash goes in an arc, right? If you hit with the first ability, you're allowed to perform a second attack. Now, like I said, the second attack goes in a straight line. But it also has increased critical hit rate. And to lower the HP, the more critical hit rate is also increased with this ability. It's very, very strong, when you get your second upgrade, it just restores a little bit of HP, right? Pursuit is his other ability, in which it's situational, it's positional, it does massive damage, but at the same time, the damage is increased if the attack hits an opponent from behind. So in other words, if Absol is ganking you, you don't know, when they're coming, so it's generally easier to pull off Pursuit. But to use Pursuit in choke points, like where fighting Zapdos and stuff is, it's a lot harder to get around targets when, everyone's in a 5v5 situation. They see where you're at. It's a lot harder to pull off massive damage numbers. You know what I mean? But this ability, if you can get behind a target, it does great numbers. Its crit rate, crit damage is pretty ridiculous. You guys seen it. One-shotting level 4s, level 3s out the gate at Bs. Absol is known for that. Now, your second ability, this is personal preference. I enjoy Psycho Cut. Psycho Cut, it's a skill shot in a line. It's a ranged ability. It slows down the target just by a little bit. I mean, it's a little, teeny bit. But it increases your basic attack damage that's dealt to the opposing Pokemon after you land Psycho Cut. So this applies to Rotom, Dreadnought, enemy Pokemon. This is why Absol clears those objectives so quickly. Psycho Cut amplifies your damage. So for example, if you have a Psycho Cut on somebody and you crit, it does a lot more damage than it would if you didn't have Psycho Cut on, if that makes sense. And then your other ability is Sucker Punch. I personally don't play with this one that much. I don't generally find this ability very, very good. It is great, don't get me wrong, but for my playstyle, I'm not a fan. But each their own, you know what I mean? And then we have your Unite move. We all know what the Unite move does for Absol. Now, when it comes to item choices, there's a lot of different builds you can run on Absol, but the staple one to have on Absol is Scope Lens. So if you're leveling up Scope Lens or aren't sure of leveling up Scope Lens, level it up. This item will serve you well for pretty much every Pokemon almost. Base stats, increases your crit rate, your crit damage, what have you, right? Razor Claw is a brand new item we got recently. This item shines on Absol, Lucario, Machamp, some other really, really great Pokemon that you wouldn't think about. Cinderace. This item is really, really good for those Pokemon. Now, this item allows Absol to always stick on a target because once you auto attack after your ability, you can slow them down. Therefore, it's harder for them to run away. On top of Psycho Cut, you know what I mean? And this, your third option is personal preference. I like to go all in on damage. That's just me. But sometimes I swap this out, Muscle Band, for 2 items. And I generally go with Focus Band here, or we go with Buddy Barrier. That's just me. Buddy Barrier keeps you alive in team fights because, again, if you're playing with your other ability, the one that allows you to, or makes you be situational, positional damage, in other words, Pursuit, Buddy Barrier helps you stay alive a little bit longer inside that team fight, you know what I mean? So it gives you an extra shield, a little bit of tankiness, more HP, if you want to go down that road. If you enjoy Night Slash, you can go raw damage, just remember, you're kind of squishy. But that's just me, man. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Welcome to Absol. Pick them up, get a couple games in before the season ends. You guys can still make it to Masters rank. We don't know what's going to happen during next season. Buffs, nerfs, changes, new maps, we don't know. But hey, man, this has been Pawse Plays. I will catch you guys in the next one. Make sure you smash that like button, join that Discord. Check out my new Gengar montage. I'll see you guys later. I'm out.